For those who are interested to listen to the presentation of giant milky mushroom, the presentation will be presented by the son of baby Spowart, and he will be talking about the giant milky mushroom. In about 10 minutes, we're going to start the presentation. Story in the October issue of Agriculture magazine that features the bright prospects of producing a newly introduced mushroom. The milky mushroom from the Merry Mushroom Farm of Rolita Baby Spowart in Amadeo, Cavite. She is responsible for developing the technique of locally producing the spawn as well as the grow-out technology for the giant milky mushroom. She studied architecture but is more involved in the agricultural pursuits. She has earlier made a name for herself in tissue culturing orchid varieties that are in demand in the target markets abroad as well as locally. She is currently operating an 82-hectare rice farm in Isabela, where she does her own experiments. Her latest project is the propagation of milky mushroom. This afternoon, baby Spowart's son, Mark, will be presenting to us the propagation of giant milky mushroom. Mark Spowart, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Mark Spowart, and I'm really sorry, but my mother couldn't be here to do this presentation, so I'm here instead. Basically, we'll start with the PowerPoint. Excuse me. Okay, so milky mushrooms. Our company is named Merry Mushroom, and the main mushroom that we're growing is Calusaibe indica. This is our San Jose del Monte farm. Basically here, we grow ornamental plants and orchids. Basically, what we've done is we've retasked our greenhouses to then provide space for our mushrooms. One of our other farms, which caters to the southern region, is in Amadeo, near the boundary of Tagaytay. Here we grow hibiscus, phalaenopsis, and most recently, our mushrooms. One of our other farms also that caters to the northern region is our Baliwag farm. And here we grow some of the mushrooms. We're in a trial period for there. Also, we do cut flowers and other ornamental plants. We pioneered our mushroom production in Isabela. We have an 84-hectare rice farm in Isabela. And it dovetails perfectly because the substrate that we're using for the mushrooms at the moment is for the grain bottles we use, as you can see in the top left picture, red sorghum. And then for the media, for the substrate for the fruiting logs, what we use is ipa or rice hull. Okay, so this is our mushroom project. We started off doing oyster mushrooms, soldier kaju, pleurotus jamur, and we started using rice straw for experiments. Basically, we've been doing this for around almost 2 years now. And when we came across the strain of Calusaibe indica, it changed our minds about everything. We have now decided to focus primarily simply on the Calusaibe indica. So what is milky mushroom? Its scientific name is Calusaibe indica, and its origin is from India. The first cultivation was in 1975, and the cultivation temperatures for this range from around 25 degrees to 42 degrees centigrade. We've seen it range up until 48 degrees centigrade in our mushroom houses with no detrimental effects to our mushrooms or to the yields. Now, days from casing to the first harvest is like 20 to 25 days, and days from spawning to the first harvest is around 40 to 45 days. Now again, I must reiterate that basically this is a rough estimate. We've seen it basically spawn faster than this. We've also sometimes in the wet season, when it was raining really hard and we hadn't figured out the perfect balance of water, we also had it go even longer than that. Okay, so some of the reasons why we chose this mushroom is basically for its nutrition. It's protein rich, it's fiber rich, vitamin rich, it's low in calories, low in fat, low cholesterol, and low carbohydrates. It's a perfect meat supplement in our opinion. I hope that when you get to taste it, you agree with us. Milky mushroom has an excellent texture and a robust flavor. It can be cooked in a variety of dishes, and when the mushroom is harvested too late or kept too long in storage, it acquires a strong cumin-like flavor. But this strong flavor is the flavonoids responsible for the mushroom's antioxidant and other medicinal properties. This is irregardless of the size. If you can see in the picture here, basically what I did is I just sauteed this. It's me doing the cooking, and I don't proclaim to be a chef or anything. I just like to dabble around with certain kinds of food. So this dish was cooked in 2 minutes. It's just garlic, ginger, and onions, stir-fried with flambéed, and then I just added oyster sauce and Worcestershire sauce to this. 2 minutes, 24 seconds if I'm not mistaken. Milky mushroom is really healthy. It is a proven immune booster. There's antibiotic properties to it. There's anti-tumors, anti-cancer, anti-diabetic. It has a lot of antioxidants. It lowers cholesterol and lowers blood pressure. Okay, so reasons for choosing the Calusaibe indica. It's warm growing. The temperature ranges from 25 to 42 degrees. The ideal temperature ranges from 28 to 35 degrees. So like we were saying, the reason why we chose this over pleurotus mushrooms or oyster mushrooms is the fact that basically we don't have to suit the planting area to the mushrooms. This inherently loves our kind of temperature, our kind of climate. So we don't have to modify the existing planting areas that much. You basically can use an old storage shed, an attic, an old room, whatever you have available. And as long as you give it what it needs, it will keep on growing. This mushroom also has a high biological efficiency of 100 to 180%. Now this means that for every kilo of dried substrate, like straw, paper, or etc., a kilo to 1.8 kilos of fresh mushrooms can be harvested. First of all, let me stress, it should be dried substrate. That's what you're measuring. And this is just a rough mean. We've actually seen it. Our average right now is 210% biological efficiency. So for every 1 kilo of dried ipa that we're using, we are getting 2.1 to like, sometimes the highest I've had is 3.1 kilos. So that's even more. To me, to be perfectly honest, at first it seemed like magic. It's converting this into that much. You have to see it to believe it. So, as you can see, these mushrooms are big and heavy. Now, basically, not to knock on other kinds of mushrooms, but say like, for example, you're harvesting straw mushrooms. 1 kilo of straw mushrooms would be like 100 pieces, 80 to 100 pieces. Now, those are 80 to 100 pieces that you harvest. You have to bend over, you have to clean, you have to package, you have to deliver, and then you have to sell. Now, with milky mushrooms, 1 kilo is normally, let's say, 3 pieces to 1 piece, or maybe sometimes even half a piece. So that's only 1 mushroom to harvest, 1 mushroom to clean, and 1 mushroom to sell. So it's, I think it speaks for itself. It's much, much easier. Next of all, it's very, very easy to grow. It grows on multitudes of medias, like rice straw, rice hull, the dried grass stalks and leaves, sugarcane bagasse, corn cobs, banana leaves, shredded water hyacinth, tea or coffee waste, mung bean and peanut hull, coconut coir, and even newspaper and cardboard, or a combination of these materials. A couple of experiments that we did is basically we used pizza boxes. We shredded them up, soaked them in water, inoculated them with the spawn, and lo and behold, after a month and a half, we were able to harvest mushrooms from this. And for me, that was something that totally blew me away. Basically, you're getting gold from trash. So it really depends also what kind of substrate that you have most readily available to you. For us right now, the reason why we're going with IPA isn't because of the yields, isn't because of other things. Basically, 1 dump truck of the rice hull, we can get for 200 pesos. So that's the entire dump truck delivered to us already. So that's our reason behind it. In some experiments, it's been proven that you can get even better yields if you use coconut coir or a mixture of vermiculture. It really depends on what's most readily available to you. Long shelf life. Now, these are basically untreated mushrooms. They've just been harvested and cleaned and then packed. So, for milky mushrooms, at room temperature, it's 5 to 7 days. Now, for oyster and for straw, it's drastically less than that. Now, when we've refrigerated these mushrooms, just basically put them in the ref and forgotten about them. They've lasted 20 to 21 days. The longest I've had, and I personally was the one who consumed these, was 33 days, if I'm not mistaken. So 33 days after, minimal, because of the mushrooms' characteristics that is dense and heavy, it doesn't lose moisture that readily. So that's why it keeps for a longer time. And when you put it in the ref, it doesn't dry out as fast as the other mushrooms. Okay, boss, next. Just a second, just experiencing some technical difficulties. You can see here actually, these are the mushrooms that basically, in the previous picture anyway, those were the mushrooms that were coming out around 1.5 kilos per individual piece. The largest that we've ever had is 3 kilos and 150 grams for a single mushroom. Okay, so the growth stages, oyster versus milky mushrooms. If the screen was clearer, basically it would show you, you go through almost exactly the same steps except for one additional step for milky mushrooms. Now you do this so that instead of just growing straight off the spawning bag, you divide the spawning bag between 2 to 3 fruiting bags, and then you're able to, given like a week to 2 weeks, you're able to maximize your yields from that. Okay, so the laboratory procedures, basically, I won't go into this, but VS Orchids, our parent company, has been doing laboratory work for orchids for around 27 years already. So what we've learned in the orchid business and or the ornamental plants, we apply to our mushrooms. So basically, we use step 1, pure agriculture. We don't use PDA or Philippine potato dextrose. We don't use that anymore. We use just the basic agar, coconut water, and sugar. Next, after that step, it's into the grain bottles, and after that, it's into the spawn grain bags. Now, for the laboratory setup, we did all this on the cheap. This isn't a professional setup, so to speak. All we did is we used a small enclosed room, a flow hood with light and UV light, a germicidal lamp, a comfortable chair, of course, for the technician, an air conditioner, and simple homemade tools and jars. Making spawn bags in bulk. Now, this is the part that really lets us maximize what we're using. Spawn bags, when colonized, is the seed that is planted in the fruiting bags. So it's very easy to inoculate them, and it's very easy to mass produce them. Bags are put in trays and preheated with solar power before cooking. This lessens the amount of cooking time because it's already bringing up the temperatures. We then stack and wrap with greenhouse plastic. Underneath this is basically a tube running to a drum that's been outfitted with a hose, and then what we do is we fill it half with water, we heat up the water, it pumps steam into the wrapped plastic, and that's how we raise the temperature, how we pasteurize our spawn bags. It's been wrapped here with what you call this, the insulate, and then steamed at 8 hours for 100 degrees centigrade. This is a video of grain bottle to spawn bag transfer. Okay, well, I guess this can be seen on our Facebook page. So this is more of a advanced step for propagation. Okay, this is where we incubate our spawn bags. It's really just plain shelving, and then we stack it with our inoculated spawn bags, and we leave it for 2 to 3 weeks. The materials that we use are just basic plastic bags with uh, plastic pipe for the neck. It's wrapped with rubber bands, and then we use cotton plugged rubber bungs for the top. Spawn incubation, yeah. Temperature at 30 degrees, light 12 hours on, 12 hours off. So basically, it's just natural daylight. We just stack it. It's open. It has a roof, but it's pretty much as open as you can get. Another of the videos that I'm sorry, but it doesn't seem to want to play on this laptop. Basically here, we're using the pasteurized IPA. And then what we're doing is, we're layering it from the grain from the spawn bags in salami-style layers. And then we're stacking it all up. It's being sealed with rubber bands and then being set aside for it to incubate and produce even more. So this is the planting area. You can see it's just open. It's basically a reconditioned kamalig. They have the pasteurized substrate on the floor. This is after they've done it, it becomes fruiting logs like this. It's just left there. You can see it's stacked in pyramids behind. This is how uncaring this kind of mushroom is. To paraphrase, basta hindi siya maarte. You can do a lot to it. Pwede mo siyang bugbugin. It can handle the dirt. It will keep on growing. So this is another reason why we love this one. You let the bags incubate under normal room conditions until colonized, and this will be about 18 to 22 days. So here in the picture on the left side, that's a retasked old pig pen that my grandfather built. So what is casing? Basically, this is the last step before you fruit the mushrooms. You cut the fully incubated bags, well, 80% to 90% incubated bags. You cut them salami style. You put them on the floor. It has to be either cement or plastic, something that just stops the weeds growing into your mushrooms. You then case it on top with carbonized rice hull, which is basically what we're using now. You water it. You leave it for around, the fastest that we've had it is 5 days, and then we've been able to harvest from that. The longest that we've had it, though, is around a month and a half. That was when I messed up with the amount of water I was applying. So reasons for casing, basically it's a fruiting trigger. Also, it adds physical support. Now, due to the fact that these mushrooms are heavy and dense, if you don't have a solid physical support, they tend to lean over. Aside from that, this is also a moisture control. It forms a seal on top that doesn't let the moisture go out as quickly. That's why in our Bulacan farm, we're only watering once a day for 15 minutes, and that's it. Casing materials. You can use a variety of these. You can use garden soil or garden soil plus farmer manure, carbonized rice hull, sand. Now, you can use any of the first as long as you add basically a calcium source. You can use marble dust or powdered oysters or eggshells, lime, plaster of Paris, whichever is most readily available to you. We're lucky we have a marble plant right beside our farm, so that's where we get our marble dust. How to case. Basically, you soak the casing material in plain water until saturated. You want a lot of moisture in it before you use it. You then slice the bag into 3 or 4, it depends, salami style. You arrange them in beds, and you sprinkle the casing material on top evenly to a depth, and I cannot stress this enough. It has to be evenly to a depth of 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Very, very crucial factor. If you have too deep a casing, the mushroom doesn't grow. It doesn't feel like growing. If you have too thin a casing, you get a lot of contamination. So you water lightly and to even out the casing. Maintenance and monitoring. Place your cased bags in a shady place that is humid. If you only have a few, you can put it inside used bags and lightly close on top. If you have several, you can put it on shelves and then close it with a book cover or whatever plastic that you can get your hands on. If you have many, you can make a small hoop as shown. Remember that you are enclosing them to maintain high humidity, but they also need some light and some airflow for proper development. So you have to leave an opening on both sides. You put your structure under the shade of trees so they do not heat up excessively. You spray with water lightly every 1 to 2 days or as needed. You don't want to oversaturate, neither do you want them to be too dry. So pinning. 2 to 3 weeks after casing, you will see pins. You have these things grow almost before your eyes. It's so amazing. You have 2 days, you have 4 days, and you have 6 days. 2 to 3 weeks also is a rough estimate because like I said, we've had them pin in 2 days, harvesting after 5 days. We've also had them pin almost a month and a half after. Converted structures. Here, like I said, this is where we're growing them in Isabela. They're just converted, retasked old pig pens. This is from our farm in Bulacan. These are old greenhouses, dendrobium greenhouses that basically we just covered with greenhouse plastic on the sides to trap some of the humidity and make sure that the airflow was balanced. So 2 to 3 weeks after casing, pinning will start. Water lightly with a hose daily and watch out for snails or slugs or other pests. And after a week, this will be ready to harvest. Now for harvesting, you can tell that your mushrooms are ready to harvest when the cap is expanded and there is little or no incurl on the underside of the cap. Now for the right timing, in the picture on the left, you can see it's still dome-shaped. Now on the picture on the right, it's already like a reverse dome. And the only difference here is the aesthetic appeal, but basically the taste is pretty much the same. The yield will only be slightly increased. So we recommend, since it's a very pretty mushroom, might as well harvest when it's looking aesthetically at its best. To harvest, you hold the mushrooms by the base and then twist it free. Take out the small pins in the clump as well, as these would not grow anymore. We've done a couple of seminars and some of the feedback has been that people haven't been wanting to harvest this way because they feel like sayang yung small pins. They feel like it's a loss or it's a waste. Actually, it isn't because these small pins will not grow anymore. So it's easier just to twist and then it comes away. No special materials or tools needed to harvest. Place mushroom trays with the caps up to avoid dirt from making the mushrooms dirty. Basically, because we're using carbonized rice hull, which is black, and our mushrooms, which are white, if you turn them upside down, all of the carbonized rice hull will fall into the gills, and we don't want that. Basically, we just have them right side up. Thinly shave off casing material and wipe dirt with cotton wool. And that's basically all that we do, all the processing that we do to our mushrooms. Here's another video that we would have wanted to show you, but basically because it won't play, this just basically shows you a clump of mushrooms with the carbonized rice hull attached to the base. That's going to be sliced off with some knives and then cleaned with wet cotton, and that's all. Our processing of Milky mushrooms has basically been all of the extra that we don't sell immediately. We just slice them up and package them into 250-gram sections in plastic bags. Aside from this, personally, we would prefer not to get into the processing of mushrooms because I would not like to compete with dried mushrooms that we can import for so cheaply from China or from Thailand. The beauty of these things is basically they're fresh, they're here, it's easy to harvest and easy to sell. Storing the mushrooms. You store them in a box, the enclosed box in perforated plastic bags, so at least you have moisture exchange. You store at 5 degrees centigrade to 10 degrees centigrade. But more importantly, of course, you should not freeze them no matter what, because freezing material like this will basically destroy the cell wall and you'll have a soggy mushroom after. You can cook it and then freeze it and then it doesn't change at all. Same texture as the canned mushrooms that we have. Firm, meaty to the taste. Okay, So how to cook? You slice thinly. We recommend that you boil for 5 minutes and then drain. Or if you want to cook them in the dish, you can cook them for at least 10 minutes so that they absorb the flavor of the dish. At our seminars, we provide free breakfast, lunch, and merienda. Now, we've done dishes as eclectic as binagoongan mushrooms. We've done dinuguan with mushrooms, which is surprisingly a really nice hit. We've had chicken curry with mushrooms, adobo with mushrooms, munggo with mushrooms. We do lumpia, and then lumpiang toge, but half of it is milky mushrooms. We also did the okoy with squash and milky mushrooms. Aside from that, I think that's pretty much it. But as we can see, a pretty eclectic mix of dishes that you wouldn't have expected that milky mushrooms would have fitted in with. Seminar food. Oh, and ginataan pala. We did ginataan with mushrooms. And lengua estofada. If you attend our seminars, you'll get to taste all of these for free. Marketing, basically, so far, well, from what we've seen, it sells itself. It has a long shelf life, lots of nutritional benefits, lots of health benefits. It's a very clean appearance, and it's very, very pretty. After the first harvest, you do not throw away your bags because it will still bear many more mushrooms. Forget about your bag for about 5 days in the shade, and after 5 days, water heavily and wait for the next flush. The mushroom pot will give you several flushes, but the size and yield will continue decreasing. A 4-kilo bag will produce 1.5 to 2 kilos of mushrooms over a 3-month period if you treat it right. Now, when we say 4-kilo bag, you have to keep in mind that this is the wet bag already. So the dry substrate, that's roughly around like 1 kilo. So 3 weeks from casing, 5 weeks from casing, and 5 weeks to 3 months. It just continues flushing. Now, what we've been saying to everybody is a 3-month period. But right now, I have mushroom base that are going on 10 months already that are still producing mushrooms. So the 3 months is really more of a guide. It depends on the situation. You can use the spent mushroom substrate as livestock feed, worm feed in vermiculture, or compost or potting mix. Since we're doing orchids and other ornamental plants, we've found that now we don't need to use fertilizer anymore. We just use the spent mushroom substrate, mix it in with our coir, and it's wonderful for the plants. It's also wonderful for the customers because sometimes when we're selling plants, there are mushrooms growing out on the side. So it's like a 2-for-1 combo. For more information, you can email us at vsorchids@mac.com, or you can visit our booth, Mary Mushroom. You can also see us on Facebook, Mary Mushroom PH. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark Spowart. Announcement, tinatawagan po lahat ang mga participant ng NOAC. Tinatawag na po tayo doon sa plenary hall. Mag-start na po ang ating session. Gusto mo namin kayong makasama ngayong hapon dito. At alam po namin na nag-e-enjoy kayo, pero